It had been raining for hours. The kind of rain that made the world feel hushed and far away. Arav lay sprawled across his narrow hostel bed, one arm draped over his eyes, trying to disappear into the quiet. The fluorescent ceiling light buzzed, above like a distant thought he couldn't quite catch. It was the kind of afternoon when memories pressed in through the cracks of solitude. He thought about Kabir more than he admitted. Kabir with his messy hair, football-stained shoes, and unfiltered charm that filled a room like cigarette smoke. Intoxicating, invasive, impossible to ignore. Arav couldn't pinpoint when the admiration had shifted into something more dangerous. Maybe it was the night they stayed up whispering about nothing until dawn. Or maybe it was the day Kabir had defended him in the cafeteria without hesitation, calling out the slur like it was a stain on his own shirt. Arav had told himself he was over it. That Kabir's kindness wasn't an invitation. That straight boys with girlfriends didn't cross that line. But the thoughts always came back, most often in the silence after Kabir left the room, or in the faint trace of his cologne left behind. The doorknob rattled suddenly, and Arav sat up, startled. Kabir pushed the door open, drenched and breathless, his white shirt clinging transparently to his chest. "You didn't lock it again," he muttered, kicking the door closed behind him. "You always forget your keys," Arav replied, voice light, covering nerves with practiced ease. Kabir dropped his backpack and peeled off his shirt in one fluid motion, shaking water from his hair. "Caught in that damn monsoon again. The auto just refused to go past the main gate. Man, I'm soaked." Arav tried not to stare. His eyes flicked to the ceiling, then the wall, then the floor, anywhere but the droplets sliding down Kabir's chest. "You skipping the lecture too?" Kabir asked, flopping down on Arav's bed like it was his own. "Wasn't feeling up to it." Kabir sighed. "Naina's pissed again. Says I don't listen enough. That I don't take things seriously." Arav didn't answer. He watched the way Kabir spoke without looking at him, like he was trying to speak the problem away into the ceiling tiles. "She says I've changed," Kabir added, voice lower. "Maybe I have." There was a long pause. Rain battered the gauche window, steady as a heartbeat. Kabir shifted closer on the bed, shoulders brushing. "You think I've changed?" Kabir asked, eyes finally meeting his. Arav blinked. His throat felt too tight. "I don't know you well enough to say." "That's a lie," Kabir said, and smiled faintly. "You know me better than most." Arav's heart thudded once, heavy, stupid, hopeful. "Then maybe you should talk to me like you mean it." Silence again. But this time, it wasn't empty. It buzzed with something unspoken, dense between them. Kabir reached over, fingers grazing the back of Arav's hand. Neither of them moved. "You ever wish things were different?" Arav asked quietly, barely audible over the rain. Kabir didn't answer. He looked at Arav like he wanted to, but the words wouldn't come. Still, he didn't move away. His hand remained where it was, warm and still touching. They stayed like that, stuck between a choice and a consequence, between longing and the truth. The rain outside poured harder, as if trying to drown the space between them. Kabir exhaled. Slowly, his shoulders rising and falling in a rhythm Arav had memorized over months of sharing space, but not feelings. And just when it felt like the moment might pass, that Kabir might laugh it off or shift away, he whispered, "You're easy to be around." "Too easy." Arav didn't smile. "That's not always a good thing." Kabir turned his face to the ceiling again. "No, but sometimes it's the only thing that feels real." Arav looked down at their hands, his fingers still half touched by someone else's confusion. He knew better than to hope. But in that flicker of silence, he still did. Outside, the thunder rolled. Inside, the line blurred. Arav didn't remember who leaned in first. It was a moment suspended in the murk between impulse and decision, where thoughts died and the body moved on its own. 1 second, Kabir was beside him, close but unreachable, and the next, their mouths met, soft and brief, like a secret whispered too close. Then it ended. Kabir pulled back immediately, breath caught somewhere between confusion and denial. His eyes darted to the door, then back to Arav, like someone afraid of being caught even in an empty room. "That shouldn't have happened," he said, voice barely holding together. "It was just the mood, the rain, I don't know." Arav nodded, pretending it hadn't scorched through him like wildfire. "Yeah, no big deal." But it was. He felt it like a pulse in his skin. Kabir stood and turned away, rubbing the back of his neck like he could scrub the memory off. "I've got a girlfriend, man." "I know." He looked over his shoulder. "You're not going to say anything, right?" "No," Arav said. "I'd never do that to you." Kabir stared at him for a moment longer, then sighed and sat, back down, this time closer, knees nearly touching. "You're different. You always have been." The tension thickened again, harder to breathe through. Kabir's fingers reached out hesitantly, brushing the edge of Arav's wrist. Not an accident this time. Arav didn't pull away. He couldn't. Kabir's touch was hesitant, but the fire behind it wasn't. It was there, wild, trembling, and confused. Kabir leaned in again. This time it wasn't a mistake. Their mouths met with more certainty, more ache. Hands moved slowly, unsure of their welcome, but desperate to stay. Kabir's palm found Arav's jaw, cupping it as though he'd done it before in dreams. Arav, open to him, not just in body, but in all the places he had guarded with walls and silence. "You okay?" Kabir asked, breath shaky against his skin. "No," Arav answered truthfully. "But I want this." "I don't know what this is," Kabir murmured, eyes searching his like a question without grammar. "I just know it's been eating me, alive." Then there was no more space for words. They found each other slowly, clumsily, with touches that were part apology and part revelation. It wasn't lust that moved them, not entirely. It was hunger, an emotional one, buried too long, beneath jokes and denial. Arav felt like he was being seen, really seen, for the first time. Not as the quiet roommate, not as the friend, as someone who mattered. The walls around them held the secret, wrapped in the scent of rain and breath and fear. It was fragile, sacred, and wholly temporary. When it was over, Kabir sat on the edge of the bed, pulling on his shirt with hands that shook. He didn't look at Arav. Arav stayed lying down, staring at the ceiling. The silence now wasn't intimate. It was aftermath. Kabir's phone vibrated on the desk. Once, then again. He picked it up and stared at the screen. His jaw clenched. "Naina," he said, not looking back. "She's waiting for me." Arav said nothing. Kabir stood, adjusting his hoodie. "This didn't mean—" "Don't," Arav cut in, quiet but firm. "Don't ruin it with a lie." Kabir looked at him for a long moment. His eyes were unreadable, the way windows look at night when the lights are off. He left without saying goodbye. Arav remained in the bed, the sheet still warm beside him, his chest a mix of peace and devastation. He stared at the spot where Kabir had sat, wishing he could forget the way it had felt. Real, raw, wrong, right. The room felt too quiet now, like the silence was mocking him. Kabir's phone buzzed again. He'd forgotten it on the desk. Arav glanced at the screen. One new message from Naina. "Miss you. Call me when you can?" He didn't move. He just stared at it, a bitter taste in his mouth. He wasn't angry with Naina. She had no idea what storm was unraveling behind that door. No idea her boyfriend had just undone someone else's heart in the space meant for loyalty. Arav closed his eyes and exhaled. Kabir would come back. That much he knew. But next time, it wouldn't feel the same. Days passed, but Kabir never mentioned what happened. He slipped back into their routine with alarming ease, joking about professors, borrowing Arav's charger, tossing his shoes under the bed like nothing had shifted between them. But everything had. Arav saw it in the small moments. The way Kabir's gaze lingered when he thought Arav wasn't watching, the hesitation in his voice when Naina called, the nights he stood at the door a second too long before stepping inside. Their silence was no longer innocent. It was loaded, fragile, and waiting to collapse. They didn't speak of that night, but it haunted Arav. He replayed it in the quiet moments, wondering what it had meant, if anything. To him, it had been everything, an affirmation, a rupture, a cruel hope. But Kabir walked around like a man unburdened. If he felt guilt, it didn't show. If he felt longing, he buried it beneath jokes and half-finished texts. Naina's name came up more often now. "She wants to visit next weekend," Kabir said once, eyes flicking toward Arav and then away. "Might stay a few days." Arav nodded. "That's good." But it wasn't. It felt like suffocation. At night, Kabir's presence grew more confusing. Sometimes he stayed out late, came back with perfume clinging to his collar, the scent sweet and unmistakable. Other times, he stood by the window, phone ignored, staring out into the darkness like it might offer answers he couldn't ask for. And some nights, like shadows returning to their origin, Kabir climbed into Arav's bed without a word. No. Greetings. No explanations. Just the warmth of a body seeking shelter. They never kissed again. Not like before. It was quieter now. Stranger. His hand would find Arav's under the blanket, his breath soft and steady on the pillow they shared. Arav stopped pretending he didn't want it, but he also stopped believing it meant anything. One evening, Kabir came back early, eyes tired, lips tight. "Naina says she's thinking long-term," he said, pacing. "She talks about our future like it's written already. Kids, careers, cities, and I don't see it." Arav watched him silently. Kabir sat on the floor, leaning against Arav's bed, head tipped back. "But I don't see this either. Us. Whatever this is." There it was, an admission that cut more than denial ever had. "I don't need you to name it," Arav said after a long pause. "I just need you to be honest." Kabir looked at him, eyes sharp with something unspoken. "I wish I hadn't touched you." Arav blinked. "Because you regret it?" "No," Kabir whispered. "Because I can't stop thinking about it." The confession twisted something in Arav, something already bruised. "Then why do you keep pretending it didn't happen?" "Because it scares me," Kabir said. "Because I'm not like you. I can't be." Arav stood then, abruptly, the chair scraping the floor. "Then don't touch me again. If you're ashamed of this, of me, then don't come near me. Not at night, not ever." Kabir stared up at him, silent. Later, that night while Kabir was out, Arav began packing, slowly, deliberately. The drawer full of half-used notebooks, the charger that was always missing, the extra pair of slippers Kabir never returned. He didn't write a long note, just a line scribbled in sharp pen on the back of a receipt. "You did mean something, but I won't be your secret." He folded it in half and left it under Kabir's pillow. When he stepped outside, the hallway was quiet. The rain had stopped. The air was still, the world hushed as though holding its breath. Arav didn't look back. He walked slowly, not because he wanted to be found, but because leaving something behind always hurt more than staying. In his pocket, his phone buzzed. New message from Kabir. "Where are you? Come back. Please." Arav. Read the messages, then locked his phone without replying. He had loved Kabir in silence. He had broken for him in silence. Now, finally, he would heal in it too.